Hello, I'm Ian Henschke and welcome to State Line, South Australia. This week, the Ryan government suffered an embarrassing setback when the High Court ruled that part of the Serious and Organised Crime Control Act, which was used to target bikies, was unconstitutional. The section was aimed at stopping members contacting each other, but 6 out of 7 judges said it went too far because it forced the courts to be a rubber stamp for the Attorney-General. In a moment, we'll talk to the Attorney-General, John Rao, but first, Patrick Emmett has been talking to the bikies.
If the Ryan government thought a battle with bikies would be an easy PR campaign, then this week proved them wrong.
And we've given it to Ryan again. F*** him.
With the Chief Justice of the High Court describing the law as repugnant, the bikies' own highly organised PR machine went into action.
Mike Ryan may have wished to go down in history as the Premier that dismantled the motorcycle clubs, but as you can see by today, but in fact he will go down in history as the Premier who united, politicised and now legalised our clubs.
In their new spirit of openness, club members are keen to talk about what their clubs are and what they stand for. Tom Mackey is one of the founding members of the state's oldest club, the Descendants. It began back in 1974 when he was a teenager in love with bikes. And he openly admits that, like many young men, they push the limits.
We're all 18, 19, so, you know, getting out and about and rooting, tooting and shooting and scrapping and chasing skirt and all that's all just a part of the normal 18, 19-year-old anyway, no different than what a 19-year-old footballer crew's doing on a footy trip, no different whatsoever. But because of the times and, funnily enough then, the government initiative starting a bikie squad back in the mid-70s, all of a sudden we had all these police all over us. You know, they're booting our door in and roughing us up. And so, you know, we become very anti-police and very anti-authority.
And he says that rebellion often turned criminal.
Assaults, fighting, you know, and then you sort of end up in the court system and the prison system. So there's a natural progression to different types of crime because of your associations. You form friends when you're in that court system and prison system. Your mates start to become people that are deeply entrenched in that. And so there's a sort of a seeping of criminality that comes through most members, not all, but most members ended up in various degrees of trouble. But, you know, we grew out of it.
Does that make a motorcycle gang a criminal gang?
It makes it very easy to be labelled one.
A label, they say, is wrong. But they do say their dedication to supporting each other also means they attract members who've had difficult lives.
You know, we tolerate, and if we see a good bloke for being a good bloke, and he's a good friend to us, much like a good cousin or a good uncle, good nephew is, what he gets up to is his business. He'll pay that price. He'll go to court, he'll go to jail, he'll do all of that. And we will be there to help him when he gets out, and we will visit him while he's there, and we'll, you know, go around and feed his dog and look after his motorcycle while he's paying that price. But for us to cut him loose would be like cutting a son or a mother loose.
It meant for me brotherhood. At the moment, I was at that time I was a little bit lost. I found some blokes that took me under their wing and really supported me. I don't drink alcohol since I've joined the club. I do not touch drugs, and that's been for 10 years now.
Mick McPherson is the Sergeant-at-Arms for the Finks, the club where the challenge to the Rand government law began. He's also the public face of the United Motorcycle Council, which all the clubs set up to fight the new laws which aim to wipe them out. But Mick McPherson says it's wrong to think of this as just a victory for bikies. He says the law was unjust for every Australian.
It's always been the government trying to just push through and be big brother and sort of push through an act, but using bikers as getting their way in.
The clubs already have another challenge to the law in the court system. And if the government wants to talk statistics, then they come prepared with their own.
Gang crime in Australia takes up 0.06 of all crime, and that includes ethnic crime, street gang crime, and so all the experts say that motorcycle group crime would be less than half of that. So we're talking 0.03 of all crime can be attributed to motorcyclists. So you would think that doesn't pose much of a threat to the average bloke in the street.
Well, earlier today I spoke with Attorney-General John Rao in his office about his reaction to yesterday's High Court ruling. Attorney-General, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Now, the judgment said the state government got it wrong because this law obliged the court to impose serious restraints on a person's liberty whether or not that person had committed or was ever likely to commit a criminal offence. Now, you're a person known for respecting the rule of law. What's your view of that?
Well, my view is the High Court is the correct place to make a determination like that. I'm not quibbling about their findings. Their findings are...
they're pretty strong.
They're pretty strong. Well, 6 of them are. One of them thought it was okay. So it's not as if this legislation was so far out there that nobody at that very senior level thought it was okay. But look, I accept 6 of them have found it to be outside the goalposts as they see them, and we're going to behave accordingly.
Now, the bikies say that they make up a minuscule percentage of crime. Are they right? Is this more about public perception than reality?
Bikies are not the only people out there in the community who are involved in organised criminal activity. So to that extent, that is correct. And this legislation does not specifically target bikies alone. It targets anybody who's involved in organised criminal activity.
But as a public relations exercise, the Rand government was saying that it was going to get tough on crime, it was targeting bikies, and now it appears as if the court has said, look, you've just gone too far on this. So in a way, aren't they right to be popping the champagne cork? So you said they shouldn't be.
No, I don't think they are, because if I just finish what I was saying before, they're not the only groups that are like this, but there is no doubt that people associated with motorcycle clubs keep popping up in connection with various drug sales, distribution and manufacture activities around the place. They're associated with various criminal activity in and around licensed premises. And so if their point is that we're not the only ones who are doing things that are illegal, I grant them that point. If their point is that we're all doing the right thing, I'm afraid they don't have me with that one.
Well, the point that their lawyer was making was that this case has cost taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars, and how can you justify that expenditure of public money when there were plenty of legal opinions out there saying this law was wrong?
Okay. As to the amount of money, I don't know what the amount of money is at the moment. I'd be surprised if it was hundreds of thousands, and certainly the additional cost of the High Court matter, I'd be very surprised if that was anything like that sort of money. What we have gotten out of this, though, is a very clear statement from the highest court in the country about how we go about dealing with these organised criminal groups. And that is something which is going to be the bedrock on which we can build all of the legislation which will come out of this whole process.
So you're saying you had to get it wrong to get it right?
Well, I think you learn from your mistakes. And having had a mistake, we won't be making one again.
All right. Well, on that point, how worried are you that other sections of the Serious and Organised Crimes Control Acts are now in doubt as well?
Well, obviously there are some under challenge even now, other sections in the Supreme Court. And I think all of the parties to those proceedings need to read the judgment that has been handed down in the last few days to see whether that judgment improves or sheds any light at all on their case.
Are you going to redraft new legislation?
I would expect amended legislation to be put before the Parliament in the early part of next year, and we're pulling out the stops here to make sure that happens.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.